Okay, class, today we're going to do part 3. It's called completing the square when a is not equal to 1. Make sure you get your paper ready. I want you to write this down, your name, period, and date. Today's date is October 8th. Your assignment is due tomorrow. And the topic is completing the square when a is not equal to 1. The essential question that you want to find out is, how do we change from standard form to vertex form by completing the square when a is not equal to 1. Okay, so the essential question, how do you change quadratic function in standard form into vertex form by completing the square and a is equal to 1? You're going to set up your notes here, and then of course on the other side is where your main idea and questions are to be posted. Remember, you use your 3 fingers, you fold the paper over. Okay, so tomorrow, don't forget, not only do you have to watch the video, but you also have to summarize the main ideas and the questions that you may have. Okay, so step 1, these are a lot of steps. There's 10 steps in order to complete the square. So I'm going to pause so that I can write them down and don't waste any video time. Okay, so steps 1, 2 are exactly the same as the previous steps. You make your equation equal to 0. You move the c term to the other side. And then step 3, instead of dividing by a, we're going to factor out a, which pretty much means divide. Okay, so we're going to divide a from one side of the equation. So our first example, let's do example 1, says 2x squared plus 4x minus 8 is equal to y. So first step is to make the equation equal to 0. So I'm going to replace my y with 0. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to move the c term to the other side. So just like we have done in the past, we write down what a, b, and c are. A is equal to 2, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to -8. So if I'm going to get rid of my c, if I'm going to move it to the other side, I'm going to do the opposite, which is to add 8 to both sides. So when you add 8 to both sides, you have 2x squared plus 4x is equal to a positive 8. So that's step 2. Step 3 says factor out the a term from the left side of the equation. So if I factor the a term, which in this case is 2, it means I'm going to put 2 on the outside and the right side stays the same. So when we distribute, we multiply. So when we're factoring, we're dividing. So what is 2 divided by 2? Or 2x squared divided by 2? Yeah, 1x squared. Good. So you have 1x squared. And then the next question is, what's 4x divided by 2? 4x divided by 2 would be, yeah, multiply would be 8x. Good. So 4x divided by 2 is 2x. So I factored out a 2 from each of my terms. In other words, I'm dividing 2 by 2, you get 1. 4 by 2, and I get 2. So step 4 is that you're going to add boxes to both sides of the equation. Remember that your box must be inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to write 2 parentheses x squared plus 2x plus your box. Okay, you're going to close the parentheses. It has to be inside of the parentheses. And you're going to write is equal to 8 plus your box. Do you guys know what needs to go inside the box? So step 5 says figure out what b divided by 2 equals using b inside of the parentheses. So it's no longer the b from our original problem, it's the b from the parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite a, b, and c. In this case, we know that a is 2. Well, actually now it's what, 1, right? Because this is a 1. We factored out the 2. What's our b? 2, and then c, well, we're not really sure. Okay, so we're going to add b divided by 2 inside of the box. So on the side Trying to find another color to use, but I guess I don't have one. B divided by 2 squared. What's B equal to? 2. So what's 2 divided by 2? 1. And then what's 1 squared? It just equals to 1. Okay, so you're going to add 1 to each of your boxes. Ah, crap. Not to both. You're just going to add it to 1. Okay, so step 6. I'm sorry, I kind of jumped ahead. Okay, I said put the b divided by 2 into both boxes, but you only need to add it to one box, and that is the box that's inside of the parentheses. So in this case, b divided by 2 squared was 1. And step 7 tells you that in the other box, you're going to multiply this term by the number you factored out. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 1. Okay, and 2 times 1 is 2, so that's what's going to go into your second box. So I'm going to put a 2 here. Of course, you simplify, so you're left with 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to, and then what's 8 plus 2? 8 plus 2 gives you 10. Make sure you add the word simplify at the end of number 7. So that's where we simplified by adding 8 plus 2 gives us 10. And step 8 says convert your parentheses into x plus b divided by 2 squared form. So this is where we change it from standard form into vertex form. So you're going to put an x, parentheses, squared. And what is b divided by 2? Didn't we already do this? This is again kind of like the side stuff. What is b divided by 2? Or what's b? 2. So it's 2 divided by 2 squared. And what is 2 divided by 2? 1. So we really have x plus 1 squared. So you're going to have 2 parentheses x plus 1 squared is equal to 10. And if you remember, our last step in our video from yesterday and the day before is to make equation equal to 0. How do I make the equation equal to 0? You're going to subtract 10 from both sides, so you're left with 2 parentheses x plus 1 squared minus 10 is equal to 0. So now we went from standard form to vertex form. Okay, remember our original standard function was this nice long function with a value of 2. We needed to move c to the other side, divide or factor out by 2. Then once we factored out by 2, we were able to figure out our box, what goes in our box, to make our perfect square trinomial. After we made our perfect square trinomial, we had to multiply it by our factored number and put it into the second box. Then we had to rewrite it as a vertex form and make it equal to 0. Okay, to kind of close off everything that we've learned, you guys know that this is now in vertex form. And remember that vertex form is a times x minus h squared plus k. So in this case, what is the value of a? 2. We know our vertex depends on our values, h and k. So h is equal to a positive 1, but it's the opposite of that, so it's actually going to be negative 1, and then k is equal to a negative 10. So your vertex occurs at negative 1, positive 10. Oops, negative 1, negative 10. And how is it transformed? It's shifted 1 unit to the left, 10 units down, and then vertically stretched by a factor of 2. Okay, let's try another example. All right, guys, so I went ahead and turned the paper to the back because you probably are running out of space now. We're going to work on example 2. I put the steps here on the side, so try to follow with the steps. Step number 1 says to make your equation equal to 0. So everything else stays the same. You write 0 is equal to negative 2x squared plus 12x plus 6. Your second step is to move the c to the other side. What is the value of c in this case? It's 6. Good. What's the value of b? 12. And then what's the value of a? -2. So we know that a is not equal to 1, so we're going to have to factor. All right. So step number 2 says move c term to the other side of the equation. In order to get rid of a positive 6, I have to subtract 6 from both sides. So I'm left with -6 is equal to -2x squared plus 12x. Okay, step 3, it says factor out an a term from one side of the equation. So I'm only going to factor out a -2 from one side of the equation. Okay, so we're going to factor out a -2 from each of the terms. -2x squared divided by -2, you're left with x squared. And then 12 divided by -2 gives you, -6x. Okay, so I factored out a -2 from one side of the equation, so the other side of the equation stays the same. And then it says add boxes to both sides of the equation. Okay, so I'm going to put -6 plus, and then a box, equals -2 parentheses x squared minus 6x plus the box, and then close the parentheses. So we are on step 4, add boxes to both sides of the equation. The box must be inside of the parentheses. So notice how I put it inside of the parentheses. Figure out what b divided by 2 equals. So on the side, I'm going to say b divided by 2. Okay, the b has to be the b inside of the parentheses. So now I have a new a, a new b, and a new c. So what's the value of a? It's 1. Because remember, we're only looking at what's inside the parentheses. B is equal to -6. And C, well, we don't know what C is yet. We're trying to figure that out. Okay, so what's the value of B? -6. So you have -6 divided by 2 equals what? -3. Okay, and remember the rule says B divided by 2 squared. So I need to square -3. What is -3 squared? -3 times a -3, which gives you a +9. Okay, -3 times -3 is a +9. So this is going to be what you're going to add only to the box inside of the parentheses. So you're going to add a 9 here. And then step 7 says in the other box, multiply the b divided by 2 terms. So the one that you just put squared, b divided by 2 squared term, you're going to multiply the box times -2. Okay, and what is -2 times 9? Yeah, -2 times 9 is -18. So that's what's going to go inside of my box on the left-hand side. So I'm going to put -18. Okay, your next step is to convert the parentheses into x plus b divided by 2 squared. So I'm going to say x squared plus, what's the value of b? -6. -6 divided by 2 is -3. So you're going to put a -3 here. So you have -2 parentheses x minus 3 squared is equal to, what's -6 plus a -18? So I added 18 plus 6 gives me 24. Since they're both negative, I get a -24. My last step is to make the equation equal to 0 by adding 24 to both sides. So my final answer is 0 is equal to -2 x minus 3 squared plus 24. So this is your practice problem at home. When you come into class tomorrow, I'm going to check for example 3 to be completed. 4x squared minus 1 is equal to 8x. The first step you need to do is to make the equation equal to 0. In order to do that, you'd have to move the 8x to the other side. So your new function is actually 4x squared minus 8x minus 1 is equal to 0, and you can take it from there. Good luck. I'll be checking example 3 tomorrow. Thank you.